Our new nutrition coach
Hi.
here at Feast. She's joined the team. We're really grateful to have her. So I want to encourage you guys today, if any questions come up during the course of this little talk, it's supposed to be interactive. So make sure you drag Terry and Lisa into your questions as well, because they're much smarter than I am and are really good at this stuff too. But I'm going to talk today about why we are actually called Feast Fitness and Nutrition, why Feast is in our name, and why we want you guys to focus on nutrition. So we're a CrossFit gym, right? And in CrossFit, for those of you who aren't familiar, this is the Crossfit Pyramid. But we added a couple things to this, right? So typically they talk about, and we think about when we come into the gym, most people think about, okay, I'm gonna do metabolic conditioning, I'm gonna get better at gymnastics, that's gonna lead to good throwing and weightlifting, and then I'm gonna be able to compete at my sport. And what we all forget about is what CrossFit puts at the very bottom of the pyramid, which is nutrition. Nutrition is actually more important to your performance in the gym and much more important to your overall health and well-being than fitness is, as much as that kills me to say since I run a fitness center. But you cannot out-exercise your diet, right? And so what we want you guys to be thinking about when you come in here is not only the stuff you do in the hour we're with you, but the stuff you're doing the other 23 hours of your day. And that's why our revision to this is nutrition, and we add sleep, because you also can't, if you're not getting enough sleep, you're not going to be healthy. And then we focus on building habits to get you in a good spot with both of those things. And we'll talk more about habits in a minute. What do we mean when we talk about nutrition? This is the definition of nutrition at Feast. We're trying to move from this processed, high-calorie, low-fiber, low-micronutrient foods, and we're picking on potato chips in this example, one habit at a time, moving up the scale towards minimally processed, low-calorie, high-fiber, and high-micronutrient foods. And we want to do it together, right? If we can do it in a communal group, just like exercising together, we believe that nutrition together, we will all be better. And so why do we think this is super important for you guys? Before we move on to that, I just want to give an example of what we mean when we talk about this minimally processed, low-calorie, high-fiber, high-micronutrients. So I brought you guys my typical breakfast, which I'm going to lay out here for everybody to see, just to be a super geek about it. I meal prepped this stuff last night. So you've got a salad with chicken, tomatoes, hummus, and what else? I think that's kind of it. You've got blackberries, and you've got, what, Terry? What do we love? Squash, right? Squash is my go-to. If you guys aren't eating squash, you need to start. That's my breakfast, right? It's crazy. That is over 2 pounds of food. So, Andy, how long do you think it takes me to eat that meal? A long time. I want to tell you guys, this is a meal that has 620 calories, 40 grams of protein, 25 grams of fiber, and like Andy said, the time to eat on this, it takes me like almost an hour to eat all that food. And what is my brain telling me as I'm finishing up that hour? Does it want to eat anymore? It's like, stop eating, you idiot, like you're stuffed. And it is hard for me to eat that much food. And yet, it's 620 calories, 40 grams of protein, 25 grams of fiber. What do we know about all the colors in there? What does that tell us? Lots of vitamins, super micronutrients, right? What about like the fact that they're berries? This part about full of water, right? If you're eating foods that have, they're non-processed, they have a ton of water in them, and you actually have to drink less during the day because you're getting hydration from your food. There's no added sugar. Now I want to show you another 620 calorie breakfast. Okay, it is an almond croissant, and pretend I bought a ice grand skim milk chai tea latte, right? That's what sausage put out there. So that's less than 1/4 pound of food. How long do you think it takes to eat that, Andy? 5 minutes, because we've all done it, right? And then you drink the chai latte. 5 seconds. If you're Connor, how do you feel after slamming that in the chai latte? Are you full? You're starving, right? Because all that added sugar is like got your brain going, I need more, right? And so it is the exact same number of calories. Instead of 40 plus grams of protein, it's 18 grams of protein. Instead of all that fiber, it's 3 grams of fiber. What are the colors in those foods? Brown. That's it. What do you know if you're eating brown food? What is there in that? It's processed. And what are the micronutrients in brown food? 0. Typically 0 fiber in brown food too. So what the point of all this is, we are not asking you to starve yourself. We're not asking you to give things up. What we want is for you to be satisfied. If you eat the breakfast I've got in front of you that we talked about before that, you are going to be full, you are going to be satiated, you are not going to feel deprived. If you eat the other meal, that's what a lot of us do eat, that's totally cool, but it's gonna have the opposite effect, right? You're gonna be hungry right after you finish. You're not gonna get your micronutrients in. The reason, by the way, the reason I eat a breakfast salad is it's just the same reason I get in here and work out first thing in the morning. I am ahead of my day, right? I've gotten a ton of my micronutrients, my veggies already done. If I want to then go out and meet a buddy for lunch and have a cocktail and a steak, cool, right? I already know I'm ahead of the game. If I don't want to do that, cool. I know I'm already ahead of the game, right? So it's just like coming here and working out first thing in the gym in the morning. So why?
Sorry, can I just interrupt quickly? Obviously not all of us are going to eat a 620 calorie breakfast.
Right.
So as I look around the room, a lot of the ladies here in the room are probably going to eat like half that for breakfast, right? But still, look at half of each one of those bowls. That's still a really substantial amount of food to eat for breakfast. And again, like Greg said, you're getting so much more out of your breakfast than just having a bowl of cereal or a croissant or whatever.
Well, you're not going to eat half a croissant. You're going to eat the whole thing.
You're going to eat the whole croissant, yeah.
So look, one of the other reasons I tend to focus on breakfast is in the American diet, breakfast typically has the least amount of protein in it, right? We usually grab a cereal, grab a coffee with sugar in it. So to me, it's the meal that if you replace it with something that's high fiber, high micronutrient dense, you get the biggest bang for your buck out of breakfast just on a replacement basis, right? So something to think about. In terms of the benefits of eating this way, right, versus the other way, anybody have any guess in terms of short-term benefits, longer-term benefits?
Probably higher energy.
Higher energy, more consistent energy levels. Great call. Anything else?
Improved digestion.
Improved digestion, great gut health, right? The more fiber we eat, the better our gut health is. And we're discovering all kinds of things about the relationship between the gut microbiome and mental health too, right? And mood. Anything else?
Better focus.
Better focus, better mental focus, better skin typically. People's skin clears up, less bloating, less inflammation. Anything else?
Better recovery.
Better recovery, amen. So a big part of eating this way is you will perform better in the gym, not only from a recovery standpoint, but if you are leaner, right, because you are building muscle through eating more protein and you're less bloated from other sources, you will be more productive in here during your workouts. You'll be less likely to be injured because the weight you're carrying will be weight that supports you in your workout, right? So recovery is a great one. Anything else? I've got a cheat sheet here with some thoughts. Fewer sick days. Oh, even pre-COVID, right? Unfortunately, diseases connected to malnutrition or eating improperly have become the biggest killer of people in the world, right? It has surpassed every other means of premature death. Unfortunately, diabetes, certain cancers, colon, breast, kidney, and the digestive tract, high blood pressure and stroke, heart disease are all causes of death and mortality that are driven by suboptimal nutrition. And then COVID, right? And so that's one more thing that we long-term are going to future-proof. I think a couple other things is that some people don't think about is modeling for our friends and family, right? So one of the things, if you start eating this way, if you are around friends and family who maybe don't eat the healthiest and they see you doing this, one of the things that Terry and I joke about all the time is in environments where you eat this way, people think you're crazy, and it's a fun thing to talk about. Like, hey, here's why I eat this way, and it's actually good for me, and it's maybe not crazy to eat healthy foods all the time. And then the other thing I will say is, food companies are constantly trying to get us to eat more hyper-palatable foods, right? So Starbucks doesn't stop with that almond croissant. They're developing the next version of the almond croissant, right? They are constantly in R&D to get us to eat more foods like that, because that's how they make money, right? It's a product that they sell, and so one of the ways to avoid that, right, is to get in front of it now. And then the last thing is aesthetics, right? So this is kind of the thing we talk about the least, but you will, so this is some of the stuff we just talked about. You will look better, right? This is me before I started eating the way I eat now, and that's me after. So it's maybe a little bit shallow, but I'm a little bit shallow guy, so I'm not gonna lie. So why would we not? We just talked about a ton of benefits around eating this way. Anybody want to chime in as to why we wouldn't eat this way? Like, what's a good reason not to?
Not a good reason, but one of the reasons I don't is I either forget to meal prep or I don't have time to cook in the morning.
Not having time, not planning, totally. Awesome. What else? UK. Lazy. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm definitely down with that. I was like, but to prepare for this last night, I was like, I got to meal prep all this food, so I show up looking like I prepared, and it took time, right? Got my air fryer out, I was working, yeah.
Convenience, I don't have to go to the grocery store to get 10 different things.
Exactly, right? So you think it's more convenient maybe to go do other stuff?
Going back to what you said before, my friends don't eat that way.
My friends don't eat that way, right? It's weird. People are like, why do you do that? The last job I had before I opened the gym, I was working as a consultant for a company that focuses on developing, that actually we were working on a food as medicine project, and I would come in the morning and eat this food, and everyone there, I was new at the company, everyone there would gather around and be like, what are you doing? Because I would sit in the middle of the table and just eat and eat and eat and eat all these foods, and they were like, what is happening? So it was a cool conversation starter, but it was definitely painted me a little bit as an outsider out of the gate. Why else, Sauce? Why else don't we eat that way?
Well, I think sometimes not to go real food waste, like I'll see one and I'm like, oh my god, it's like the chicken's getting old.
The chicken's getting old. Yeah, that
It's
can
a
be.
lame excuse, but
No, that's fair. That's fair. Fresh food deteriorates, right? No doubt. No doubt.
Wasn't just
What's that?
appeal. Like, I don't want to eat chicken first thing in the morning.
Right. Right. Yeah. You got to change. You got to see if that works for you, and it doesn't work for some people, right? It's weird to eat salad first thing in the
I
morning.
started eating like that actually, and I actually do poached egg on top of it because it makes it feel more breakfasty.
I will say, if you throw like a soft fried egg, a sunny side egg on top of that squash, savage. It's savage. A little bit of avocado, even better, right? Yeah, so the squash, if any of you don't have an air fryer, I would recommend you get one. And then the squash, that's, you can get it at Whole Foods. I don't know if they're selling in Mariano's right now. It's rarely available at Jewel. Sometimes available at Trader Joe's, but it's called kabocha squash. They also sell Blue Hubbard, which is amazing, Delicata, which is amazing. So there are a few squashes. Now there's some I wouldn't recommend. They're not as sweet as these are. But I'm happy to circulate a list of what I think of as the sweeter squashes. It's Delicata, it's Blue Hubbard, it's Kabocha, it's Buttercup. Those are four of the ones that I think are particularly delicious. All you do is you need a very sharp knife, and you need some knife skills, so be careful. But you will dice it, throw it in the air fryer, spray olive oil on there, and cook it for about 12 minutes, to your tenderness. I like mine kind of al dente, but to the tenderness you like. And then, like I said, put a sunny side up egg on there or something, break it over it. Out of this world good. So, yes,
If
Steve.
you don't have an air fryer, you can do it in the oven.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Basically roasting it at 425,
Yep.
425 degrees until it's happily done the way you like it.
Yeah.
Salt and pepper, a little spray of olive oil. Done.
That's a question.
Yeah.
Just like the breakfast. Do you try to eat like the same breakfast every day, or do you mix and match with other light foods like eggs?
Yeah. So I tend to be somebody who I like eating the same thing every day.
Creature of habit.
I'm a creature of habit, right? Other people like mixing it up. So I will tell you, Maura is not a big fan of eating this way, but she will eat squash most days, but she'll switch out a berry, or she'll have oatmeal with protein powder in it, or something else that is high fiber and has protein content, right? So that is what I would focus on, is high fiber, protein content, and colors, right?
So sorry, follow-up question. So, like, I accept, like, so do you focus the macronutrients like carbs and proteins, not as much fat, or can you talk about kind of the macronutrients and focus on?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of macro composition, this is a pretty low-fat meal. There's olive oil on the squash. The hummus has some olive oil in it. There's very little, and the chicken has some fat in it, right? But it's chicken breast, so there's very little fat in this. One of the reasons I do that at breakfast, I'm a little lower on fat at breakfast. I will sometimes add avocado to this, but I want to have room in the rest of my day for whatever comes, because because I'll get invited to do something, or Maura, I don't know what she's going to cook for dinner, and if it's chicken thighs, that has more fat in than chicken breast, right? So I tend to stay a little bit leaner, and then I'll catch up around dinner time. One of the things with me, and Joe, you're working on this too, I know, is I like to eat a lot of protein in my day, and protein has fat with it inherently, typically, if you're eating real protein sources. And so if you eat a big amount of protein, fat tends to come with it. And so especially if we're going to have steak for dinner like we did last night, I know I'm going to need a little bit of room for my fats. So, does that answer your question?
Can I add one more barrier that I think I see a lot with clients, is that the goal is not overnight to go from the Starbucks breakfast to like that.
Hell yeah.
And it can paralyze folks, I think, when they think, hey, that's like maybe not what I should be eating. I need to eat like this, but it feels so different and it's overwhelming, and it's going to be a complete overhaul. Now I have to meal prep. Now I have to buy all these groceries. Now whatever. I think Terry, Greg, and I and others would all agree that it's about incremental, right? So like, have your normal breakfast, but add some berries. Have your normal breakfast, but add an egg to it, right?
Yep.
It's these little steps that, the nutrition coaches here can certainly help you talk about how you build one thing at a time to eventually have it closer to that.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. I want to point out the reason there are all these dots on this line from one to the other is because I will tell you, like, if you try to jump from that to that, good luck, right? It took me it's been about a 5-year journey to move from the croissant to that breakfast, right? And to your point, Andy, it started out weird. It's like, I'm going to eat a salad with chicken on it for breakfast? You got to be kidding me, right? And so it takes a while to get there, no doubt. And if you try to jump into from one side of to the next, it's going to be tough. So I would pick one, right? Start adding fresh fruit to your breakfast. Start adding squash to your breakfast. Fresh fruit's the easiest, honestly. I love berries. If you can't find a blueberry, a blackberry, a raspberry, a strawberry you like, let's have a conversation. Those are all pretty good. And frozen, they're amazing, right? Frozen blueberries in some oatmeal is a fantastic way to start your day, right? You're getting micronutrients. Even frozen blueberries that you just heat up in the microwave tend to be very sweet and satisfying. But Lisa's absolutely right. It's going to have to be step by step by step, which is why we roll out our nutrition habits incrementally the way we do over a 2-month period, and then we move on to the next one. But if you're going to focus on anything, I think it's probably adding more protein to your plate, which we talk about a lot, adding some water and things like that, and then working forward from there, right? As Lisa said, doing it little by little. So a couple other reasons we don't eat that way is short-term pleasures, right? I'm going to tell you, like, if that croissant comes home with me and sits in my house all day, all I'm going to be able to hear is that croissant talking to me. Hey, Greg, come over here, have a bite, right? My daughter's just been home from college. She loves to bake. It's like my toughest time when she's home because she puts a huge plate of cookies on the table, and I walk around all day not eating the cookies until dinner, and then I'm like, I'm going to have one of those cookies, right? And then one is typically 2. So part of the challenge is these things look great, no doubt. They look good, they taste good, they smell good, and that goes back to, like, the food science. Starbucks is really smart, and other food companies are really smart about how to figure out to make us want to eat that stuff. everybody eats that way, right? You don't have to be a weirdo when you go to a Super Bowl party and you're the only one eating like fruits and veggies and everybody else is chowing on nachos. And some people just think they don't like veggies, fruits, or other foods that are good for them, right? And that goes back to Lisa's point. Maybe you don't, right? That's totally cool. The goal then is to start figuring out how you can like them, right? And maybe it's trying a sweeter berry to get on the road and then working your way from there. Your palate will adjust, right? If you're somebody who, like me, when I started this journey, was super into like drinking coffee like a milkshake, a ton of milk, a ton of sugar in it. It just took time for my palate to adjust, and now like coffee with milk and sugar tastes sweet to me. So anyway, the real question is, are you ready now to defer most of the time these short-term pleasures of the kind of higher processed foods for longer term gains? And if the answer is no, that's totally cool, right? Like, just like not everybody's ready to come to the gym, sometimes not everybody's ready to jump into the feast style of nutrition. That's fine. When you're ready, we're here for you. Totally cool. You need to figure out if you're ready for it. If you are ready for it, what we do want to do is start working on habits, right? So I just mentioned my daughter being home from school. She bakes, there's all of this stuff in the house, it's talking to me all day, and eventually we have a conversation that involves it going in my mouth, right? So part of it is, the habit there is don't have stuff in the house that you're gonna wanna eat, right? There are a ton of other habits that we do, but habit is really the only way this works, guys. Come on in, chuds. Willpower isn't really a thing, because in the evening, when your brain has used all its glucose on figuring out how much you want to lift in here, and then going to work and doing all the decisions you have at work, and making all the other decisions you need to make in your day, being nice to your family, your glucose is depleted out of your brain, and your brain's like, I need some glucose in here, and I'm going to eat whatever the quickest available sugar source is to get that. And if that quickest available sugar source is yummy cookies your daughter has cooked like I have, you're gonna eat it, right? There are a million other habit examples like that. One is meal prep. We were talking about meal prep before. Grocery shopping, right? All of that stuff, though, comes incrementally, as Lisa pointed out, and as we pointed out. Develop the habits one at a time. Terry is going to talk in her presentation specifically about meal planning and meal prep, so please make sure you're here 2 weeks from now to listen to her. I learned a ton from her. We'll go over, maybe I'll bring my air fryer in, or Terry will bring something in. We can show you guys more about how to get the squash on board and available. One of the cool things about this squash, Michelle, is it comes in huge portions, so you cut it up once and then it's available to cook for the rest of the week, right? Throw in the air fryer and get going. So use habits, right? And then the goal is you're just on autopilot, and your easiest choice is your healthiest choice. Adopt an outsider approach to big food. So again, like, you go in the grocery store now, like, it's so funny because people are like, it takes me forever to go to the grocery store. Like, literally, hopefully by the time you're kind of through your habit development, you're not even looking at 80% of the grocery store, right? Those interior parts of the grocery store, the reason they're so big is because Doritos has just created its 80th flavor to get you intrigued, right? And it works. That's why they do it. But hopefully you'll be recognizing that and just say, I don't need to shop the interior aisles of the food. Use tips and tricks for meal prep, serving sizes, reading labels, and understanding nutrition terms. So again, Terry's going to cover off on a lot of this. It's just, you're going to need some guidance and help to get efficient at all that stuff, and that's what your nutrition coaches are here for. And then do it as a community, right? Like, I learned so much from Terry as we were going through this process together. I learned so much from the other coaches at Beyond the Box. There's still a lot more to learn, but I'm telling you guys, sharing this with the community, like, every time I talk to you guys, somebody the other day brought up to me a healthy snack that I had never come across before. Oh, it was the tuna. I've meant to bring a tuna packet up, but like, the Starkist sells tuna that you can just eat on the go, that's like flavored and really amazing. And then learn and evolve, right? Like, this isn't a static process. I'm eating this right now. I guarantee you 2 years from now, that's not what my breakfast is going to look like. I don't know what it is going to look like, but I'm continuing to learn cool new stuff. So I'm hoping that you guys will stick with us through these next couple of seminars. It'll kick off a lot of thoughts, ideas, approaches, and a starting point for you guys. And then we'll move together through habit development here at Feast. And we'll be a little bit closer from that to this. So, any questions about any of that stuff? Yes, sir.
I know you are also technically a morning class person.
Yep.
Where are you eating that in relation to class?
Yeah, so I work out fasted every morning. So I work out fasted, but to work out fasted, I eat a significant amount of carbohydrates at night. So that's one other thing I do. My nighttime meal is my pre-workout meal. And the reason for that is you're trying to top yourself off with carbs for the next day, knowing you're going to wake up and get right to the gym and work out. So all those carbs I put into my muscles that I'm sleeping overnight, they're not getting used up. I get in here, I work out. And that works great for me. So right after I finish my workout, I have a post-workout shake of protein and a fast digesting carbohydrate to help me recover. And then I go home and eat my face off because I'm hungry. So, what else?
So I have an observation. Talk about calorie adjustment. I have, mostly with kids, like we try to have a veggie with every meal. And bitters, it's basically, they think it's poison.
Yeah.
But it takes basically 5 tries in a row of eating veggies to get adjusted. And my kids totally get adjusted. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, like they'll eat it, like they ask for it. And I think the same thing happens to you just get adjusted.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's a great observation. Well, look, I mean, so I mentioned to you guys about my daughter, and she would kill me if she ever saw this video. She is somebody who eats the croissant and the chai tea latte, whatever it is, right? That's how she eats right now. I've tried to set a good example for her, or an example for her for the last 5 years, and she's not ready for it, right? And sometimes kids aren't, right? And they, especially when they become adults, like mine has, they've got to figure it out on their own. So, and we all know, by the way, adults who aren't ready for this, but that's okay. People have got to figure it out on their own, so for sure.
Greg, at this point on your journey, like, are you less drawn to the whatever it was that was your vice? I mean, for me, like pizza, I started eating pizza, I can't stop.
Yeah.
So, but is it that you're less drawn to it, or you just don't get around it as much as you can?
Here's what I've done. I have found replacements that work for me, right? And I'm so glad you brought this up. I used to, every night when I came home from my law firm job, just like you do, Jim, I would eat an entire bag of tortilla chips. Those, whatever it was, I ate an entire bag. I wanted something crunchy and salty. I love crunchy and salty. So, I will tell you guys, my crunchy salty fix is currently these guys. Splits. And I want to make clear to you guys, you don't need to give up snacking, right? I brought these just to show you guys some high protein snack options, as well as just some stuff. Now, I will tell you one other hack for tortilla chips is I get El Milagro fresh tortillas. I cut them into strips and I throw them in an air fryer. Bizarrely, they taste pretty close to El Milagro tortilla chips, and they have 0 fat in them, or like a half a gram of fat. I don't know how it works. It takes a little longer, but they're very good. So there are a ton of hacks. So to answer your question, I still eat crunchy salty. I just have found a replacement that works for me. So these splits, they are, if I eat an entire bag, I'm getting 330 calories, which is a lot of calories, and it's still processed, but it's 3 grams of fat. It is 21 grams of protein. The rest are carbs, about 60 grams of carbs. And there are 8 grams of fiber per serving. So I'm getting 24 grams of fiber. So as a replacement, these are amazing. And one of the cool things about them is they're crunchy and salty. And you just don't want to eat that many, honestly. They're okay, but not awesome, right? Which is what I strive for in a lot of my food replacements, right? But I have these around because I know at the end of the day, if I have a couple drinks especially, I'm going to be craving. And these are better than to have in my house than tortilla chips are, right? And so,
like, do you feel like having the breakfast that you have now sets you up also in the day? Because like so much of, well, I like to think it's just justification, I guess. It's like with meetings and stuff, I don't control the food that's put out.
exactly.
But I also, I sit there and it's like you say, talking to you all day.
Yeah.
Even in an hour, I can't resist it.
Yeah.
If it's something I like,
Yeah.
does that help?
That does.
Use that?
So what this does, right, when you're eating like almost 2.5 pounds of food to start your day, one, it will take you a while to get up to eating that much, if you do eat kind of minimally processed. So it does a couple things. What we know is when you chew that much, your mouth sends a signal to your brain that you cannot eat anymore. And after I eat that, it's really hard for me to sit down and eat lunch, right? It's just so much food. So one thing it does is your brain tells your stomach you're full and it doesn't want any more. The second thing it does, by being slow digesting carbohydrates that don't have a lot of sugar content in it, it doesn't cause that insulin spike that makes you just want more sugar and makes you just want to pursue more food. So it sets you up as a great base for the rest of the day. And then in terms of like not being able to control what you eat, I 100% know what you're talking about. And my default was always, when something like that was coming up and I knew it was, I would have snacks like this around that again are kind of hunger killers, right? They're high protein, they're salty, so they will make you thirsty, you'll drink more too. And so if I know I'm going into a lunch or meeting like that, for me, the decision I've made is I would rather just skip that food or eat very little of it. I'll have a snack at my desk ahead of time and kind of fill up before that meal, and then just, maybe pick at it a little bit. But like what I discovered in the business context especially was a little bit of pre-feeding kills some of those urges. Terry, you were in that situation. What was your experience?
I did a very similar thing. I always had something with me that I could eat that was an alternative. But the other thing is that sometimes either you forget that thing or whatever. I would just look at whatever was there and choose, like, let's say it was sandwiches from Panera, right? I would literally pick the meat and the veggies out of the sandwich and eat that. Or I would load up on a salad if it was pizza and salad. And I would eat a whole plate of salad and maybe a piece of pizza. Let myself have that little bit of pizza, but start with something that fills me up, that has all the vegetables, etc. Just literally kind of picking the best of whatever is available to me and allowing myself to do that. Because you can't control everything all the time, especially in a business setting like that. So drinking a lot of water helps. Unfortunately, then you have to run to the bathroom, and sometimes that's not ideal either in business. But if you do drink a lot, then you also
But I'll tell you one other fun thing, Jim, is like at my work, I would do exactly what T did. When we would bring in sandwiches, I would pick the meat off and eat the meat and eat the salad out of the middle. And the fourth time that happened, somebody was like, why are we ordering these sandwiches, right? Like it goes back to this setting an example thing. People are like, Robbins looks pretty jacked and he's not doing this, and I want to know what's going on here. So Greg, like, what should we order next time, right? To your point about pizza, it used to be every time Friday, it was like, let's bring in pizza. And the 8th time people saw me not eating pizza, they were like, what is going on? Like, why are you not mowing down on this? And so it sometimes does work to change habits in the workplace. And again, sometimes people think you're raining on their parade, but they'll feel better and they'll stay at work longer because they're not like sleeping under their desk, right? So, you've seen it, Sauce, right?
I've been there.
Oh, you've been there. You have that meal and you're like, I'm not gonna make
Dr.
it.
Pepper and Snickers bar at 9 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. What else, Lisa? Anything to share on that?
I think it's like the same thing when you travel.
Yeah.
I mean, like I get a lot of like the holidays just happened, and some of my clients were like, it was a source of stress, right? Like, okay, I can control this at home, I build habits at home, but the same thing that you guys are talking about, like, oh, what happens if a situation at work comes up? Same thing. What happens when you're in the car and you have to stop at a rest area, a gas station? What happens when you're at your family's house and you can't control everything? So again, building these habits when you're in those novel situations, I think carry over.
Yeah. That's a great point. And I will tell you guys, when I go visit my in-laws, the first thing we do when we're in the rental car on the way from the airport to my mother-in-law's house is I swing by a grocery store and I buy a bunch of frozen blueberries, I buy oatmeal, and I buy basic staples, if I haven't brought enough beef jerky or whatever. And then, like, my mother-in-law knows I show up with that stuff, but it's just, it is what it is, because all she has in her house is cookies and ice cream, and that's how she lives. But that's not,
That kind of brings me to, not everybody here has kids, but if you've ever been around kids,
Yeah.
little ones, how to travel with them, how to just be with them, frankly, you plan ahead. Like, I always had kid-friendly snacks in my bag when they were toddlers, because we would get someplace and they'd be hungry and ornery, and they wouldn't like what was there or whatever. I think about that the same way as I think about me. Like, I have my friendly snacks in my bag with me all the time. Like, my gym bag, I always have something in there that's shelf stable, that I can eat if I get hungry and I'm in a jam. I keep stuff in my glove compartment in my car.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy, but like, sometimes I'm in the car, I'm like, I'm so hungry.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
I need something. It's the same way for your work desk, right? Like,
Totally.
keep something shelf stable in there that you can always grab if you're in that situation where you just need something and you don't want to default to the vending machine.
Yeah. And Amazon has made that so easy. All of this stuff I've ordered off of Amazon. It comes, and I throw it in my backpack. And I've always got one of these in my backpack. I've typically got one of these or one of these in my backpack. So, when we talk about non-processed foods, ideally you're eating whole foods all the time that have fiber, that have sugar. But man, in a pinch, this is a great alternative. So, and I'm sure Terry and Lisa have other suggestions that are along these lines as well. Those tuna things. So, rely on your coaches. Ask in the community, like, who has good ideas for this stuff. And you should, people will have ideas that'll get you going. But yeah, when I travel, my bag is full of these things. So that's a thought for everybody. What else?
So looking for that example, so the snack foods that are healthier snack foods, and you say you can get them on Amazon. Do you find these specific things in other publications that you generally follow, or do you just kind of peruse it and kind of look at the nutritional information on Amazon? How do you decide?
I have just looked and looked and looked, right? And what you'll see is somebody, like, I was looking for a non-sugar beef jerky, and I found biltong, which is a South African beef jerky that doesn't have sugar added. And then what's funny, right, is biltong's gotten popular, so now some jerky companies have started doing zero sugar jerky, right? So like that happened, and then this happened, and typically I'm just like, there are enough new products coming out, like these Bada Beans are, I think, only a few years old. Like, I'm just looking for something that I know is an option, and just kind of constantly doing that. Because the other thing that happens is I'll get, these are vegan, right? So we have quite a few members who are vegan, and you're like, okay, what am I going to recommend to people that's a good protein snack for vegans? These both fit that bill. All of us are just constantly doing research and looking for new foods. So that's why you guys should rely on us. I mean, we have all been through this process. It took me, I weigh and measure my food now. It took me a year and a half to get used to weighing and measuring food. Like, I've learned so much along the way, but it takes a long time. So leverage the experience and knowledge you guys have here. What else?
I just copied Greg and I ordered all this stuff on Amazon.
You can do that too. See what you like. Anything else?
So I guess I have one question.
Yeah.
So with like protein in the morning, if
Yeah.
like you're sensitive to dairy,
Yeah.
is it like good alternatives to that?
Yeah, so I do not eat dairy. Like, dairy does not agree with me. So, so that's why I tend towards animal proteins first thing, right? Jewel makes a really low-fat chicken sausage that is, it's got some ingredients you can't pronounce in it, but it's a great start to the day, especially if you like something salty. There's like Gilbert's makes a good all-natural chicken sausage too. So, there are breakfast sausages, typically chicken-based, if you want to be something leaner, that I think a lot of people like. I make chicken and eat chicken breast, like you can throw it in. Add extra egg whites to an egg, right? Like, I'm just having a flashback to there's a guy named Ryan, what's Ryan's last name, who actually like drinks egg whites straight with a little bit of chocolate milk in there. I wouldn't recommend that, but I've seen it happen. But yeah, cook a fried egg and add like a big container of egg whites to it, right? Eggs are a great protein source. What else, T? What am I missing? Or
You
Lisa?
can do stuff like protein powder in your oatmeal, or buy oatmeal that has protein in it already.
Yeah, Kodiak is making.
Kodiak's great.
Yeah.
Kodiak pancakes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that has dairy though. Yeah, that's dairy.
Oh,
It's got some whey powder. Yeah, you mentioned tofu scrambles are awesome if you're plant-based. Yeah.
PB2 and peanut butter, or excuse me, PB2 powder and oatmeal is really really strong in flavor and protein in oatmeal. Well, it's like a chocolate and it's like a peanut butter cup in an oatmeal. It's great.
Oh my God.
So mixing protein powders and oatmeal that's one of the Morris go-tos as well. But yeah, it's a bummer. I can't eat dairy. It's a great protein source, but once you eliminate that, you're more tending towards the soy products. You're more tending towards eggs and egg whites, which are great, and then other animal proteins. So. What else, friends?
I'm like the meal prepping. Do you normally like cook like all at once on the weekend then, or like you just kind of like prepare the food so it's easy to cook?
Yeah, so I'll tell you guys. Last night I cut up a huge Blue Hubbard squash, so I've got like enough squash to air fry for the next 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. I cooked probably 3 pounds of chicken in the air fryer, and I just cut it up into small enough pieces where I can just throw it on my food scale and grab it and go. I reheat it. I use it in a ton of. I make tacos almost every day. So like I've got El Milagro tortillas. I throw the chicken on there. I cut up some tomatoes and put it on there. I put an avocado on there. It's like I love tacos. So for me, that's an easy one. A little hot sauce. So yeah, I tend to make a protein that I know I'm gonna like to eat for the rest of the week. I season it, right? One of the big things that Terry taught me actually, I used to be pretty grim. I would just cook protein and eat it. Terry's like, use some seasonings, dummy. So she introduced me to a bunch of different seasonings. And like, you go to Whole Foods and just shop the seasoning aisle, or go to Jewel, shop the seasoning aisle and try it, because then chicken doesn't have to taste like chicken every day, right? It can taste like spicy stuff, or it can taste like, Asian stuff, or it can taste like Hispanic stuff, right? So, but the short answer to your question is, I tend to cook Sundays and I tend to cook Thursdays, because those are my days off at the gym, and I will cook enough to get me through to the next day, just having stuff I can grab out of the kitchen, because that's also, to Sausage's point, that's about how long that protein lasts.
Yeah,
you don't want to have it around for maybe more than 4 days or so.
Total, what is your, like, you average it out every day, per day, what is your total time spent prepping?
I probably spend an hour and a half on Sunday and on Thursday prepping everything, and then I'm throwing it together, right? And that includes shopping, right? Because I really know, like, I can be in and out at Whole Foods in 20 minutes. I basically am shopping chicken, berries, squash, and then I know where the mixed greens are. I know where the tomatoes are, right? So I'm only in the produce aisle, and then I'm in the protein aisle, and maybe in the spices aisle and hot sauce aisle. And that's it, and then I'm out. So it's very quick for me to get in and out of there. Then I'm meal prepping everything. So it's like an hour and a half on each of those days, and then the rest of the time goes fast. Like, to throw this together, once you've got the berries, once you've got the squash, once you've got everything, it's fast.
You don't add nuts to your mix, no?
I'm not a huge nut guy, only because if I like healthy fats, I get them more from avocados. I just love avocados, and nuts are so calorie dense that I'm not opposed to nuts in any way. Sometimes people come to me and say, I get my protein from nuts, and I'm like, oh dude, like that's a little bit challenging, because it has so many more fats and protein, and fats aren't bad, they're just very high in calories. And so if you're trying to manage that aspect of it, it gets away from you pretty quickly. Any other thoughts on that?
No, same. I mean, a quarter cup of pistachios is like 170 calories.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a lot of nuts.
Yeah, I love them, but they get out of control in a hurry.
Almonds, all of those are great, but
Yeah.
they're just high calorie, high fat.
Yeah. What else?
Greg, how many grams of protein do you eat per day?
I am at 180 grams of protein per day.
Is that like your body weight?
That's my goal body weight. I weigh 170 pounds right now. The other thing is I'm 52. As you age, your body is less able to incorporate the protein you eat. So, sorry Jim, sorry John. Like for Jim and John and me, and maybe even Evan, even though he's younger than all of us, we have to eat more protein to get the same amount of protein incorporated into our muscles because our bodies are just less efficient than a young man like sausages, right? And so for us, if I want to aim for 160 grams of protein actually usable, I need to eat about 180 consumable.
And is there something with like eating too much protein in one meal and then it doesn't get
So there's a
protein synthesis?
there's a there, no one knows exactly, and Terry and Lisa jump in here. The thought is you can probably not, at the top end of the range, you probably cannot use more than 50 grams of protein at any one feed, right? Because the body doesn't retain protein like it does carbs and fats. So if you put more in than the digestive system can handle at that moment, you're gonna pass it through.
Okay.
Right? And so, and protein's also, well, so that's one of the challenges. One of the reasons I need to eat protein at breakfast is if I'm going to get to 180 grams a day, I got to be spacing it out. So I'm not only eating 6 ounces at breakfast, 6 ounces at lunch, and 6 ounces at dinner, I'm snacking in between meals to get to that number. Because otherwise, it's a lot. It's a lot of eating. So it's funny because people come in here and they're in a diet mindset and they're thinking I need to eat less, and often the challenges with the athletes I work with is they're so tired of eating, they're like I can't eat anymore. Like I'm gonna call out Mikey. I've been working with Mikey Kachorik on trying to get his protein up. He's like, I just don't want to eat anymore, right? So protein isn't broken down by saliva in your mouth, so it just takes a lot more work to chew it and digest it.
Can I add something to that too? Can I just add something really fast? With any of this stuff, so whether it's eating more food in general, whether it's eating more protein, also just digestively, like you just want to be, like, again, incremental change is critical. Because if you go from eating 80 grams of protein to 180 grams of protein, right, in a week or overnight, your digestive system is gonna be displeased, highly displeased.
You're gonna have a tummy.
You're gonna not feel good. And the same thing with fiber, right? Like yes, add fruits, vegetables, high fiber stuff. But again, if you're going from like a no or low fiber diet to a very high fiber diet, right? You want to give yourself some time for your digestive system to get used to that. And unfortunately, what can happen is it turns a lot of clients off, right? They'll be like, oh, I tried to incorporate more protein, or you know, I added 2 cups of cottage cheese, right, like before I went to bed, and it's like, whoa, like let's dial it back.
Yeah.
So again, incremental, and work with us. We'll talk with any practice, hydration, fiber, calories, protein, all that stuff. We can really break down how to incrementally do that.
Yeah, as a rule of thumb in nutrition, I would never make an adjustment that's more than 10% off of where you're at now over the course of a 2-week period. And then see how you feel, and then another jump from there.
What are your thoughts on protein drinks?
I'm a proponent of a protein powder right after a workout, for sure. I don't love people using protein powder throughout the course of a day, right? If somebody's like, I'm drinking 3 protein shakes a day, that's not really kind of what that's for and how it's supposed to be used, and whole food sources are better. But if that's how you can get it done, and that's the only way you can get it done, then maybe stick with that while we slowly add real food to the diet. I don't know, do you guys have any different thoughts on that?
Yeah. Exactly. It's also, some people find digestively that they don't like to have 3, protein shakes in a day either. So
Yeah.
it can be a problem on the digestion.
Yeah.
I'm unclear on how we're supposed to be looking at calories. I mean, the advice seems to be all over the board from like, don't even count them, don't worry about them. I mean, here, at one point I was told I wasn't eating enough wasn't actually, but it, like you're talking about nuts, and you actually don't really promote that too much because it's too high calorie for, I don't know, for what you. How do you deal with calories when you're trying to get protein, trying to get fuel that you need?
Yeah. So, by and large, if you're eating like this, you really don't need to count calories, right? Because what's going to happen, unless you wind up under eating and you're experiencing like you're getting moody, you're not sleeping well, you're not doing well in workouts, you're feeling kind of like maybe you're under, those are all symptoms that you're not have enough calories in your symptoms and you're just kind of not feeling great, right? And then we probably need to talk about it. But by and large, if you're eating minimally processed protein and produce and that's your diet, you're not going to be overeating. By and large, especially if you're a male, right? And so just because of satiety issues and just needing, trying to get all that food in. But the bottom line with calories is, our bodies are biomechanical machines, right? And it's calories in, calories out. So your calories in, if they are higher than the calories you're expending, you should expect that you will gain weight. And if they're lower than the calories you're expending, you should expect that you will lose weight unless you have been under eating for so long that your body has adapted to the point where it's kind of hoarding calories, if you will, to avoid you kind of starving, right? So the body is really good at saying, Jim is not eating enough, so I'm just going to slow the metabolism down so that I don't get out of whack, right? And if that happens and it goes on for a very long extended period of time, some challenges can arise that we want to avoid, right? And so that's one reason we do focus on calories in here. We're trying to figure out what your natural, what we call homeostasis point is, where your balance of calories in and calories out is at an equilibrium. We want to get you to about there if you're happy where you're at and maintaining. What we don't want is somebody who's chronically under eating and maintaining, because it's a lot of stress on the body, and it kind of can have some hormonal challenges if it goes on for too long. So that's why we focus a little bit on under eating with people who are doing that.
Let me clarify, I eat nuts, I just don't eat a lot of nuts, right? Like I don't eat like a cup of nuts every day, because that's a lot of fat calories and fat, where I'd rather spend that fat in other foods, like red meat or avocado or something else. So I use nuts like as sort of an interest point in my salads.
Interest point.
It's a little
I love
crunchy.
it.
It's a little, something to kind of just add interest or change to the salad.
Yep.
So small amounts.
100% agree. That's it. Like sunflower seeds on a salad, awesome, right? Like stuff like that. Well, we don't want to demonize any food. It's just some foods are to be treated with caution. Like when I'm talking to people and they're like, I don't understand what's going on with my calories. Oftentimes, and one of the reasons I use hummus rather than dressings on salads is people tend to overdose their salads with oils, and people tend to overdose salads and other things with nuts, right? And so those are two areas where stuff just kind of gets out of control in a hurry, right? And so knowing what you're eating is different than just saying, oh, pistachios are great for me, so I'm just going to sit down with a bag of pistachios and go at it, right? This hummus I roughly measure out. So this is a hummus made by a group called Oasis. They sell at Whole Foods. It's actually, again, a pretty low-fat hummus. So there are hummuses that are extremely high in fat. This is pretty low fat, and so I stress a little bit less about it in terms of measuring it out. But yeah, I mean, usually when I'm making something, it's all on the food scale anyway. Like I put my plate on the food scale, I throw everything in, and so it just gets measured because I'm there anyway. So.
Now, I'll just share an alternative perspective. I sometimes measure stuff like my oatmeal in the morning just because it's convenient, or if I'm pouring egg whites, it's just as easy to pour it into something and cook it. But with most of my stuff, I've done it for so long that I do eyeball it, right? And so, again, it's about that habit building, right? Could I have done that 5 years ago? Probably not. Right? But I've done it, you know, and it's helpful, the carryover, like when I go out to eat or when I'm, you know, outside of something I can directly control, I know roughly what a cup of rice looks like, because, you know, I measured it for a long time. And so just an alternative perspective that, you know, same thing with like ounces of protein, right? Like I know it's about the size of my hand and, you know, I can kind of gauge it from there.
That's a great point. And I also, to add on to that, like I said, last night we went out to a steak restaurant, right? I drank, I ate, I didn't pay attention, right? Like, you don't have to do this 100% of the time. You don't have to do that 100% of the time. No one, that would drive me nuts if I was at a steak restaurant trying to stress about how much filet I ate versus how much ribeye versus whatever. 80% of the time is good enough, right? Typically. So on the weekends, I drink, I eat, I don't stress about it, right? I generally know, because like Lisa said, you do this long enough, you're like, I generally know what I'm eating, but I'm not storing it or tracking it or thinking about it on those weekend days. So.
I just want to know, do you either of you have like substitute for mayonnaise, like for tuna salads and chicken?
Greek yogurt.
Yeah, Greek yogurt.
Plain Greek yogurt.
Also for tuna salad, like if you do avocado instead of mayo, like it's still really good. You don't taste the avocado. But I usually do like if I'm doing tuna salad, I don't like mayo. It doesn't get beautifully. So avocado with that.
I've mixed in hummus. I've done avocado, Greek yogurt, low-fat sour cream. A combination of those things. It just depends on like what you like.
And I don't like creamy stuff like in general, and so I actually just like I will just do like lemon juice, right? So I'll do like I'll chop up like green onions, peppers, olives, and put like fresh lemon juice in there, and it's just like a light, you know, it's not like a creamy, it's a different texture, but for me that's like more palatable. So
yeah, I would say Greek yogurt is a go-to in our house for mayonnaise and for sour cream subs. Yeah, really good.
Low-fat sour cream isn't actually that bad. Really.
Yeah, I agree. It's certainly not bad. What else? Anything?
That's good questions.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thanks, Greg.
Please come again next Saturday. We're going to learn even more. We're going to talk more about calories, macros, and body comp, Jim. And then Terry is going to be week 3 with meal prep ideas. So come for that too, please. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. You're the best.